A very warm welcome to the University of Strathclyde and to the wonderful Barony Hall. What a great occasion. Of the many things that's caused a problem for us at the university in the course of the pandemic, not being able to have our graduations was a tremendous disappointment. It's a marvellous occasion, it's a marvellous point in the university calendar, so it's absolutely great that we can be back here and celebrate the fantastic achievements of our students. The Barony holds many events throughout the course of the year, but none are more significant than a graduation. It's fantastic as well that, as well as our students, the students are able to be joined by family and friends today. I know just how much it will mean not just to the students, but to all those who support them, that today the culmination of so much hard work, so much application, and the finishing line is here. In a moment, I will ask my colleague, the Vice Dean of the faculty, to present the candidates for graduation. As they pass across the stage, I will cap them. It'll be a COVID capping in that the cap will not actually hit them, but nevertheless they will be capped, and it's an important rite of passage. It's a mark of achievement where students who are currently technically a graduand become a graduate of this university. Once the degrees have been awarded, I'll take the opportunity to tell you a bit about our heritage, our values, and I think the values piece is a hugely important one, and how we hope to play our part in society as we go forward. Today's a great day to celebrate, and after this ceremony is over, you're all very warmly invited to a reception in our new learning and teaching building. And I hope that will be the starting point, but not the conclusion of your celebrations today. Don't be inhibited. We happen to be in an old church building, but don't let that inhibit you in terms of showing how much you admire and respect those that graduate today. The more disruptive, the better. So thank you very much, and I will now call upon the Vice Dean for the faculty, Dr. Lizanne Bona, to present the candidates for graduation.
Associate Principal, in the name of the University and by the authority of Senate, I present to you these students. For the degree of Doctor of Philosophy in European Public Policy, Sylvia Magdalena Borowska. For Research in Politics, Brian Paul Boyle. For Research in Social Policy, Emelina Kakela. For the degree of Master of Science in Data Science for Politics and Policy Making, Clara Rose Castrillo-Dick. Lindsay Rose Flagler. Emma Victoria Wright. In International Relations, Jasmine Abdisalan Aden. Hannah Blackwood. Nicole Cruikshank. Imogen Lace Gibbs. George Christopher Harrison. Scott McCusker. Evgenia Pastira. In political research, Shannon Margaret Blair. Scott David McFadden. Callum Alexander John McGregor. Robbie Nichol. Aaron James Prince Tappy. In politics, Aaron William Dye. Carter Kev Roberts Kane. Alexander John Clark Marr. Hai Sheng Chan. In public policy, Chinwe Agnes Akitanor. Iona Campbell. Matthew Dixon. Gemma Donnelly. Melissa Jane Dundas. Connie McAlpine. William John McCabe. Ashley Cara Colville McLean. Ewan Stewart Miller. Oluwakemi Tinuade Onibalusi. Shivam Pal. David Wilson. In urban policy and analysis, Alice Cheney. Kirsten Sinov Watson. In family therapy and systemic practice, Amy Beadle. In advanced residential childcare, Neil McMillan. Ben Andrew Luke O'Farrell. Tracy Dawn Taylor. In child and youth care studies, Laura Conley. Laura Ann Miller. For the degree of Bachelor of Arts in Politics and International Relations, Jennifer Bryson. In Politics and International Relations and English, Georgia Ann Grundy. In Politics and International Relations and History, Jamie Thomas Nealon. In Spanish and Politics and International Relations with International Study, Indira Iolfi. For the degree of Bachelor of Laws, Sam Daniel. Sophie Elizabeth Woodside. Miriam Tufail. For the degree of Bachelor of Arts in Politics and International Relations with International Study, Louis Thomas. For the degree of Postgraduate Diploma in Professional Legal Practice, Claire Kerr. For the degree of Bachelor of Laws, Zoya Khan.
Absolutely tremendous to see a graduation in this hall again, and my warmest congratulations to every one of you. And on that note, I would like to say that it is not easy acquiring a degree. It's been particularly difficult in recent times for obvious reasons. So I would always say to our graduates, take great pride in your achievement. But I think this year, of all years, one would say that with added vigour. And on that note, could I invite you all to congratulate all our graduates. That was a much more rigorous round of applause than this morning, and I'm sure that relates to the fact that this round of graduates is even more accomplished than this morning. In a short time, I'll invite you at the end of the ceremony, as our most recent graduates, to join the academic procession when we leave the hall. This is very symbolic. It demonstrates in a very visible form that you've moved from being students to being full members of the Strathclyde academic community. That community numbering nearly 200,000 now worldwide. Some very esteemed company over the years. David Livingstone, John Logie Baird, very many years ago, and in more recent times, some hugely accomplished women like Helen Liddell and Elise Angelini. Today is both the end of one chapter and the start of a new one for you all. You've done fantastically well at university. You've proved yourself to be extremely able, extremely smart. And this gives you a platform to go on and achieve other things in life, to realise dreams and ambitions. But if I could take the liberty of offering you one piece of advice, it would be this. Be yourselves. Be the person you actually are, because being the person you actually are has got you where you are today, which is a very good position indeed. Be in a position where, when you go home in the evening, you can always look in the mirror. Reject majority opinion if you have a different view. You're always entitled to a different view. You're always entitled to be you, and all the better for that. You are, though, leaving this university at a time when the world faces incredibly daunting challenges. Over the last 2 years, of course, as well as ongoing challenges like climate change, the world as a whole has faced the impact of the pandemic, which has had far-reaching and unprecedented effects on all our lives. It's challenged our health systems, it's impacted and damaged our economies, and it's changed the way we work, though that's not always been in a bad way. I think there's some very positive lessons going forward. But it's also demonstrated that as a society, when we work collectively, we can achieve a great deal in the face of adversity. Science and the British universities have achieved a great deal in terms of addressing the pandemic. The invention of the vaccines has allowed us to move out of the darkest days of the pandemic into a much more normal world that we're now in, and we hope will become yet more normal still. But as well as demonstrating attributes and features of our society, the pandemic's also told us all something about ourselves. And it's told our students who have completed their university degrees against this backdrop, it's told our students just how resilient they are. And I think you all should remember in future years when you face difficulties that you were the university graduation of the pandemic, and you should be very proud of how you dealt with that. I'm also very proud of the people who sit to my right, because for our staff, it was a very challenging time too. And I will be perfectly open, there were times when we were not really sure what to do for the best. But staff showed great resilience and commitment to their students, and we pushed through in a way that I think was ultimately very successful. And I want to mention one particular group of staff in particular, because many of my colleagues faced a lot of difficulties, as all of us did in society throughout the pandemic. But the university was open throughout, and our cleaning staff and our security staff were here throughout, at a time when the risks of the pandemic were not fully known, and when many people would have preferred to stay away from work. And I'm immensely grateful to them for the commitment and dedication they showed. Moving beyond the pandemic, we're all very much aware in a way that perhaps we weren't before, just how important climate change is and how important it is to address that. Not necessarily for my generation, but for the generations that come after. Last month, as you'll all know, the city hosted a delegation of world leaders who came together and ultimately arrived at an agreement to try and address the dreadful issue of the warming of the planet. But the pledges made by those politicians will not necessarily be effective without us all playing our part in demanding change and demanding that the promises be kept. We all have a role to play in that. The university itself is well aware of that. As a university community, we're very much aware of our responsibility to reduce emissions, and we plan to reduce our carbon emissions by 70% by 2025, and by 2040 at the very latest, we aim to reach zero. During the pandemic, a number of features of our lives were revealed which were not perhaps as pleasing as we would wish. Divisions in our society, and the pandemic fell very unevenly on different members of our society, weaknesses in our systems, and on occasions people sought to deal with the scary nature of the pandemic by the denial of science and expert knowledge. But when you're in such a difficult situation as that, what's really important is that there exists a culture of tolerance where freedom of speech is respected and different views can be played out with a view to arriving at the best solution. And freedom of speech is something that's very much in the DNA of this university, where we very much believe that whatever your view is, you should express it, and there should be a tolerance for a wide spread of opinion. As Strathclyde graduates, over the course of your study here, you've acquired a huge amount of knowledge, and that knowledge, aligned to your ability, your application, dedication, gives you far greater strength than you had before. It augurs very well for all your futures. Last month, as part of COP26, as an institution, we were delighted to welcome a hugely distinguished former American president, President Obama. And it was very interesting who President Obama wished to speak to when he came here. He didn't wish to speak to aged members of staff. He wished to speak to our students. He wanted to speak to the leaders of tomorrow. And I think his judgment in that selection is absolutely spot on. The visit went very well, and when he was leaving and about to get into his car to be driven away, he turned back to the students that he had met who were standing outside with him and said to them, "Get active." Two very simple words, but two words which I think in that context are very powerful, and indeed in any context are very powerful. Our degree has empowered you in a way that you hadn't been empowered to that extent before. Get active in all aspects of your life. The future is very bright for all of you. Going through university life is never easy. In any year, let alone the years we've just had in the last couple of years, in any year, there's ups and downs. There's moments when you think you've bitten off more than you can chew. There's moments when you think that other members of your class are far better than you, far more accomplished. There's all manner of challenges. If anybody tells me that university was easy and they sailed through it, I simply wouldn't believe them. But in the course of meeting those challenges, all of you will have benefited from the support and love of your family and friends. And I think it would be appropriate today if we could ask our graduates just to applaud their supporters who are here with them today. I'd also like to draw attention again to my colleagues to my right, a fantastic set of colleagues. Every colleague on this platform I know, respect. What I'd like to say is that the last couple of years have been difficult to try and achieve the same levels of commitment to the student experience that we would normally show. We've done our utmost, and I think we've done an extremely good job. The staff here care not just about the academic results. It's not simply a question of seeing how many of our students get high marks. My colleagues care about the students as human beings and their overall well-being. And the staff are as delighted today as friends, family and supporters for you. But I would ask again if we could show our appreciation for the staff. Our university is values-driven. It always has been. We were founded in 1796 by Professor John Anderson, who wasn't impressed by the elite attitudes of the traditional ancient universities in Scotland. For John Anderson, university wasn't just for the rich and privileged. And that's absolutely right. It would have been an absolute obscenity if only wealth determined that you were entitled to a university education and all that might bring for you. He was also determined that universities were not just a place of self-indulgence. And he launched the university on a mission of the place of useful learning. And that badge of useful learning remains with us to this day. It's probably better expressed nowadays as employability. And in terms of employability and where our graduates go and the careers that they have, we do our utmost to support that. In terms of being inclusive, we take full part in widening participation initiatives, and we do our utmost to try and attract students from socioeconomic backgrounds where traditionally there hasn't been a high rate of application for our universities. And we're very successful in that. Of all the research-intensive Scottish universities, our success rate in widening participation is clearly the best. We're very proud of that. It matters to us. It's also the case that it's actually not very easy to get into this university. We have the highest one of the highest entrance requirements across the entire UK. So your very first achievement, graduates, was actually getting in the first place. That in itself was something to be proud of, and even prouder when you've done so well at the very end of the process. Our badge of useful learning doesn't simply apply to our teaching programs, it also applies to our research. It's very important to us that our research has an impact on wider society, on local communities, and our communities much more widely scattered. Our science is very much involved in developing innovative techniques that will help the transition from fossil fuels to much cleaner and sustainable energy sources such as wind, solar, and hydrogen. And that in itself will help us battle climate change as a society. We're also at the forefront of developing new drugs that will help with health issues in the UK and beyond. The wider community matters to us. We have a very successful law clinic that helps members of the public who could not afford the fees that solicitors would charge. We have a business clinic, and in this part of the city, we're playing a full part in the new Glasgow City Innovation District. This is a plan to revitalise this part of the city, and we're working with a number of other stakeholders, including large and small companies. And we'll be working with them in partnership to create new ideas, new technologies, and solutions to a wide range of problems in the areas of health, 5G, and various others. We also try and influence public policy and inform public policy in areas like economic strategy. And in relation to the Faculty of Humanities and Social Science, we've got a hugely successful School of Education where the policy work there has a very significant impact on the approach taken by Scottish Government. I would hope that as an institution we're not arrogant. Much of what we do is done in partnership, both with government, other universities and private companies. What universities, though, are ultimately about is the student community, and we're passionately committed to that. To some extent, you can only demonstrate that by putting your money where your mouth is, and the new sports building on the campus is absolutely first rate. It's also interesting in the way it can demonstrate just how diverse our modern student population is. One of my colleagues, who goes far more often than I do, tells me that in any session to the sports centre, she will always hear at least 5 languages spoken. Our new teaching and learning building is a huge commitment to the quality of the student experience, and allied to fantastically talented staff, we would hope that would give people an absolutely first-rate experience. Our work's recognised elsewhere. We're the only British university to have won the Times Higher Education UK University of the Year award twice, our last success coming in 2019. I could say a fantastic amount about my colleagues, but I'm only going to mention 2. Pandemic was massively challenging for us. Earlier on I said there were at times moments when we weren't sure what to do for the best. Throughout that period, this faculty was guided by the Vice-Dean, Dr. Lisanne Bonar, who was exemplary in leading from the front in dealing with the huge challenges we had in providing a quality experience for our students. Allied to that was our Associate Dean, who's also on the platform today, Graham McPhee, whose fantastic knowledge and skill in the online world helped us, in the word I think he deployed, helped us pivot to a much better online provision and enabling us to interact with the students in a way that we would have hoped to do. Today is a day of celebration. Days like today don't come along very often. Enjoy it to the full. Sometimes in life, excess is good. Today is a day for excess. All the staff here and myself are immensely proud of what you've done. I very much hope you enjoy the rest of the day with your friends and family. We would very much hope that the degree that you've acquired and has been awarded today will empower you for the rest of your life and give you a launch pad for future successes. But today, make sure today's a celebration. Careers and all the rest of it can wait until tomorrow. But today is simply a day to be savoured. So on behalf of myself and all my colleagues, we wish you all the best for your future success. Thank you. I now declare the ceremony closed, and I would like to invite the group of students who were graduands when they first entered this hall half an hour ago. They now leave as graduates, and I'd invite them to leave as part of the academic procession. If I may, I'd like all family, friends, supporters to stay behind in the hall until the graduates have left, and then immediately after that follow them up to the Teaching and Learning building for refreshments. I hope that will be the start of your celebrations, and I certainly hope it won't be the end of your celebrations. And if you're able to do so, could I ask that you stand again for this close of the ceremony? Thank you.